Hello everyone, I'm Sebastian Y and this is Managerial Economics. In this video, we're going to continue discussing the SCP paradigm by discussing conduct and performance. In the previous video, we talked about structure. These are the underlying characteristics of the market that lead to different firm behaviors, which we call conduct. Conduct includes things like pricing and how much firms are able to mark up their goods above cost, integration and mergers, research and development, and advertising. When we think about conduct in a market, pricing is one of the most important considerations. Markup is the degree to which firms are able to charge a price above their cost. Some firms are able to charge higher markups than others, and this depends on the technology that they have available to them and the concentration in the market. Later on in the course, we're going to talk about more advanced pricing strategies, but for now, we're just going to think about firms charging a single price. One way to think about the degree to which firms are able to mark up is the Lerner index. This is named after the Russian economist Abba Lerner. We define the Lerner index as L equals P, price, minus MC, the marginal cost, divided by the price. In a highly competitive industry, price and marginal cost might be very close to each other or even equal. If that's the case, then the Lerner index will be 0 or close to 0. That means that the firm is unable to mark up at all. The other end of things would be a firm that has a marginal cost of 0. In that case, then we would just get P divided by P, which is just 1. That means the Lerner index is always no smaller than 0 and no greater than 1. In general, when a market is more competitive, the Lerner index is going to be lower. And when a market is not so competitive, the Lerner index will be higher. But this depends on many factors. The next aspect of conduct we'll talk about is integration and mergers. Integration means that productive resources are united into a single firm. Firms might be integrated from the very beginning, or integration can happen due to mergers. There are three main types of integration. Vertical integration integrates various stages of a production process into a single firm. Sometimes this can be by design from the very beginning. For example, a brew pub might brew their own beer, but also sell it directly to their customers as opposed to through a distributor. Another example of vertical integration happens in the automobile industry. When we think about the vertical stages of producing a car, there's things like steel production, parts production like the body and engine, assembly of the car, and then sale to the consumer. Some parts of the auto industry tend to be vertically integrated. For example, an automobile manufacturer like General Motors might merge with a body manufacturer, and that would be vertical integration. But on the other hand, General Motors does not typically own dealerships. Those are generally independent firms. But on the other hand, a company like Tesla has corporate-owned stores instead of independently owned dealerships, which is an example of vertical integration. In horizontal integration, firms producing similar products merge into a single firm. Sometimes an argument is made that due to economies of scale, a horizontal merger can actually be good for society, but in general, this is counteracted by an increase in market power due to two competing firms now being one single firm. In general, the increase in market power outweighs the efficiency gains in a horizontal merger, and generally society is made worse off. For that reason, governments often try to block horizontal mergers much more often than vertical mergers. One example of a horizontal merger came in 2008 when Delta Airlines merged with Northwest Airlines. The FTC allowed this to happen on the argument that Northwest generally operated in the northern United States and Delta operated in the south. And they made the argument that those two areas didn't overlap enough for the market power to increase too much. On the other hand, in 2018, the FTC blocked a merger between Crisco and Wesson. These are the two biggest companies in the vegetable oil market. This was blocked on the argument that they would control too much of the market if the merger had gone through. The last type of integration and merger is called a conglomerate. A conglomerate is integration between completely separate product lines. The products don't have to be related in any way. One reason why this can be beneficial is sometimes demand is cyclical or seasonal, and more profitable divisions can prop up the less profitable ones in their low times. Another argument for forming a conglomerate is if there is a single highly skilled CEO who could do a better job running both companies as opposed to two less skilled ones running them individually. Berkshire Hathaway is an example of a conglomerate. They own all kinds of different things, including Geico, an insurance company, Dairy Queen, a restaurant, Burlington Northern Santa Fe, a railroad, Helzberg Diamonds, jewelry company, and Fruit of the Loom, a clothing company. Finally, we'll talk about R&D and advertising. Remember that technology underlies all production decisions. Firms can get an advantage if they have superior technology than their competitors. And therefore, R&D can be an important decision to make. Some industries do very little R&D, while others do a lot. One potential problem of R&D spending is that spillovers can happen. A spillover happens when competitors can also benefit from R&D done by one firm. This reduces the incentive to do R&D, but patents can help a firm capture the full benefits of the R&D that they do. The pharmaceutical industry and the semiconductor industry are particularly reliant on patents. Similar to R&D, advertising is important in some industries and not in others. Industries that have very little product differentiation, such as agricultural commodities, don't do very much advertising. There are two main reasons why a firm might advertise. Informative advertising helps consumers learn about a product's features and price. In the previous video, we talked about search cost. When there's a high search cost, consumers have a difficult time finding the lowest prices. Informative advertising can reduce a consumer's search cost by simply stating the price of a good. This is going to lead to more competitive pricing. The second type of advertising is persuasive advertising. This is intended to shift demand by convincing consumers to switch from one product to another. The type of advertising and the amount of advertising that is done depend heavily on an industry's market structure. The final part of SCP is performance. The performance of an industry refers to the outcomes once all the choices have been made. We typically measure this in two ways: profit and social welfare. We define profit using the Greek letter pi. In econ, pi stands for profit, not 3.14. We define that as revenue minus cost. Profits vary across industries. Some are highly profitable and some are not very profitable. Firms that are large might be more profitable, but they might also not be very profitable. And high profit industries are not necessarily high social welfare industries. As we go through different market structures, profit is going to be one of the big things we look at. In general, higher profit is driven by the firm's ability to price above cost. When we look at social welfare in a market, we're generally going to measure this as the total surplus as defined by the producer surplus plus the consumer surplus. Profit is part of social welfare, but it's not the entire story. The consumers are also part of the social welfare. Social welfare refers to the total well-being of society that results from a particular market's operation. One of our biggest considerations here will be if we consider the market efficient. A market is considered efficient if it results in the greatest possible total surplus. A perfectly competitive market is socially efficient because it maximizes the total surplus. But when firms have market power, they're able to pull back output and raise prices away from the socially efficient outcome. They increase their own profit, but at the cost of allocative efficiency. This has been a quick overview of conduct and performance. In the next video, we will wrap up our introduction to SCP and the field of industrial organization.